Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 722. My name is Eric Nilsson, and with me today, I have my regular co-host, Bob Plankhurst. Today is Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. Bob, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a sunny day, and I don't know. It's
We're in May, right?
Yeah, making PowerPoints, making white papers, talking to people this afternoon here. So no, it's good to be here. So.
Right. Yeah, it is good to be here. And, we're coming into the momentum season. A lot of things lead up to momentum season. We got Eric Kubla on the show today. He is going to be talking about disaster recovery and business continuity. But before we do that, he's also one of the VMUG content selectors for Explore this year. We've invited a bunch of VMUG members, I think 4 or 5, to be part of content selection this year, and we get to talk to him about him ramping into momentum season, right? Looking at all the sessions that have been submitted and then making those choices. Myself and Corey have been doing the community sessions along with Julia and a couple others. So we're in the business of selecting interesting content, right? So we'll talk to Eric about that. We'll talk a little bit about business continuity. But before we do that, we can do a drive-by to Corey Romero and see what's up with the experts and what he's got going on in Colorado. Corey, how's it going?
Oh, going great, Eric. Got lots of stuff happening with experts. So sub-program voting has started. Awards will go out on or before June 2nd. Call for blogs is still out. So far, we have 29 articles for registration for VMware Explore Las Vegas. So I'm still asking for more articles. Some of them are excellent. Some of them are really great. And so just want to keep spreading those around. Those have been handed off to the events marketing team. So they're marketing those, and so am I. Blogger Pass applications are open until May 30th. At 5 p.m. So don't miss that. That went out in my email 2 weeks ago. So check for that for how to get your Blogger Pass application. And next, actually this week, it will go out up on publicly for a blog post. And so it'll be open to the public applications as well. And then finally, I'm still looking for someone to help me with the vExpert sub-program for security. We had someone last year, and they bowed out this year, and so I'm still looking for someone internally in Broadcom to run that program. And that's it.
Corey, you and I should talk.
I will reach out to you, Bob.
Yeah, I might know a guy. He might be sitting.
I will. I'll drop some time.
No, Bob, we want somebody good, right? There's
I need cream for that burn. Ouch.
There's got to be a bar for there.
So we're definitely not taking Aaron.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Corey, you and I will talk. We'll leave this Aaron guy. We got a whole set of Erics here today. So.
Sarcastic humor out of it, for sure.
Yeah, I can take it.
Yeah, so Corey, sounds like you're busy. It sounds like the second half, the experts, is a little bit earlier. Like I don't remember it getting out in. Did you say July? So apps are open now.
Yeah, so second half won't open until June.
Okay, so it's okay. Yeah. So it's not open now. I thought I heard you say it's open, and you're awarding them in June. But okay, so it opens in June and then award in July, August before Explore.
Yeah, sub program awards are going to be awarded in June, and then right after that, late June, early July, we'll do the second half.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else is in the news? The Explore schedule marches on, right? So Reg is now open. Early Bird is going on. I think Early Bird goes until early June, as I remember. So maybe you have 3 or 4 more weeks to get the Early Bird discount. There are different price levels depending on what you're going. 5 more weeks. Eric Kubla says 5 more weeks until it's Early Bird is done. And we are tracking 15th. Yeah, I want to say that sounds right.
Right
so
on that.
4 or 5 more weeks. Yep, before that'll end. But I know that they've got Reg going, and I know they're happy with the numbers that are happening. So there is the different tiered pricing that's happening this year. So you can come just get a community pass for $400, something like $800. Sorry, something like that, and then that gets you in the community area and the lounges and the theaters are going to be bigger this year. 40 seats, 80 seats per theater. So, bigger, better. The hackathon's supposed to be bigger, better. We're going to be running that. We're going to be launching that next week. So we're happy about that. There are going to be giveaways, champions, all kinds of stuff going on. So should be good.
And it's becoming more of a practitioner conference again. And that's nice. It's so there's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of technical stuff. Yeah. People should really think about going.
And people ask, I know there were some customers who were asking, I heard through the grapevine, we announced 9 last year, right? Where we announced it, but what's going to be announced this year? Why go if I've already heard that 9's coming out and I've been part of 9 beta? What does it mean? And my answer to that, and I was on a call that I was muted, right? But my answer was, yeah, now you get to see 9 and learn 9. You can actually
talk about 9. All of what's in 9.
Right. And then deal with it. Yeah, right. So it is going to be 9, right? It is going to be a 9 event. And I know there's going to be a bunch of new 9 labs that haven't been seen. So there will be 9 labs, VCF certification. I think you get a free certification test this year. So I think, don't quote me on that, but that's what I heard. So I'm assuming I don't even know if I'm allowed to announce that or not, but I believe that is the case. Hear anything. So I think it's public. I think it's public, at least. They were talking.
Well, that would be a perk for the whole thing. That worked really well at Connect,
Yes, right,
for example.
Right.
And so, doing it for the flagship conference, let's do it.
Yeah. And we want to get everybody to VCF, right? Everybody's on their journey. We'll talk a little bit about Eric, about that fun journey. Everybody's on it to some degree. So that's happening. Free certifications, new labs for 9, and what I've been telling people, when you look at private AI and the AI features that are going to be in 9, and obviously I can't say very much about that. I would say that AI is moving so fast. What features we know about 2 months ago are going to be different 2 months from now, and then 2 months after that. The models are moving so fast. GPU management will be GPU management, but the value prop for this stuff and the conversations around what private AI will be, I guarantee you by the time we hit the conference in late August, the conversation around what 9 will get you with AI will have changed, right?
Yeah.
And
what GPUs you're using, NVIDIA is seeing some competition, all that stuff,
right. And so if just because AI is moving so fast and there will be AI content, that's why you should go to Explore. If nothing, not just the AI conversations on how to run AI workloads in the data center is moving so fast. You almost need to go to a conference every quarter just to keep up and develop a strategy, right? So get your tickets. You're going to want to go and stay ahead of the game. Having said that, I don't know if there's any other news other than Explorers here, and we're marching forward. And there is a VMUG launch that's going to be happening in June. Go to vmug.com, register for the I don't know if I'm allowed to say launch. It's a webinar, and they are going to be making some big announcements. So you need to go to that.
Yeah, you should pay attention to those. Yeah. Hint, hint.
Right.
Nudge, nudge.
Yeah, hint, hint. Right. Yeah. So that then you can be planning for what you're going to come to explore and know. So that one, that's the only one, Bob, that I have that I need to do a shout out to is go to vmug.com and register for their virtual event. It's sometime mid-June.
June 24th.
June 24th.
In theory, I've got a session edit or whatever. I think we're working that out right now. But a lot of stuff being talked about there. Yeah, you'll want to not miss that one. So
no matter how many I say, don't do plankers. Don't. They do it anyway, right? Can't stop the man.
People ask about security. Speaking of security, and I do have a piece of news because Corey reminded me of this. Here, I'll just put this up. If you haven't signed up, if you haven't received a security vulnerability email in a while, you might want to check to see if you're still signed up for them. They cleaned out those things. You can't, all the free email addresses the Gmails and the Outlooks.
Yeah, all that. Yeah,
all that stuff got cleaned
mm-hmm.
out. We've talked about it on the show before, why that is. We're not entirely sure, neither here nor there. If you haven't had a security vulnerability disclosure emailed to you in, let's say, in the last 2 months or so, you'll probably want to go out to the security advisories page and sign up for security alerts again. Make sure that you're getting. So
all right, note to self.
So
and do you have to log into your support portal to get to that page? Is that page?
You do not. I'm not logged into a support portal right now.
Okay.
Here, let me click on it. Yeah, the VMSA sign up. It's just a form basically. So it doesn't look like you have to be signed up or even be a customer or anything. You just can't use a Gmail or Outlook or Hotmail or whatever account. So
right, that makes sense. And because they were doing all that cleanup, who knows whether you got dropped or not. So
I'm just telling people, if you haven't gotten one in the last couple of months, you should have gotten one. And so, yeah, check on that. But that is all.
Exactly. If you don't know what the tiger's hunting, it's most likely hunting you. So,
yes.
So make sure if you haven't heard for a while, go make sure you sign up. All right. With that, let's get to Eric Kubla. He is our guest for the show today. Eric is let me get my notes up on Eric. Eric did a session on business continuity and disaster recovery from at Explore last year. He's a blogger. He has a blog, Eric Kubla, ERICKUBLA.blogspot.com. So he does periodically post on blogs, has done sessions, and most importantly, he's also on the VMUG committee for content review. So, Eric, welcome to the podcast. We usually start out with tell us a little about yourself, give us a little elevator pitch of where you're working now and how'd you get there? You're working for the First Commonwealth Bank in Indiana, Pennsylvania. A little confusing there, but I guess there's an Indiana city in Pennsylvania, and that's where you're based. So, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. I wouldn't refer to Indiana, Pennsylvania as a city. But it is. So I've been with First Commonwealth Bank for a little over 16 years now.
Nice.
That's long for an IT.
Wow, that's a real career. Yeah, well, especially in the banking
it's nice. You're full of institutional knowledge. You know why things are the way they are, even if the why is ridiculous. I think that's great. So.
Yeah, I've got to see a lot in one place, right? I mean, the transition from where we were 16 years ago to being, pretty much 100% virtual today. That transition in one place is pretty cool. But the job before that I was at for 9 years too, before they got bought out, and I was one of the casualties of war. And fortunate, my last week there, I interviewed and got the job at First Commonwealth. So really good transition. But back in 99 or so, 1999, I dropped out of, or 98, I dropped out of a college and didn't know what I was going to do. So it was either culinary school or IT school.
Nice.
I like to
support either.
So what you're saying is you went to culinary school, you didn't work out, couldn't get a job, so then you fell finally back to IT, right?
So nice. That's how the career path started.
Many of us, that's how we went, right? Like community college, went there, ended up installing machines. Dell was selling machines, building PCs. It was a fun time.
Yeah, and college doesn't really have IT, as a course or anything like that. It kind of gets mashed into business schools sometimes, or people end up in CS. But if you don't want to be a programmer or an electrical engineer or whatever, you're kind of in between there. And so, it seems to have worked out. Both of those career paths had late nights involved and hard work and things like that. So, but you chose IT. So
even the IT school I went with that I went to, we were studying NT4. I get out and get a job and we're already on Windows 2000. So it's almost my 18 months to 2 years of schooling was almost irrelevant as soon as I was done.
Yeah. That's a common thing. How do you keep up with it? It's so hard to keep the curriculum up, and then teach it and all that stuff. Yeah, technology is just like that. So
Yep.
That's the fun part. There's always new stuff to do. So yeah, you've been working in the bank. You've virtualized at some point, and you've now 100% virtualized. Sounds great. How many VM worlds did you go to? Did you start in the 2010, 11, 12 timeline? Where did you start plugging into the ecosystem?
So my first one was 11 or 12. Whenever they went to San Francisco after Vegas, the first one in San Fran was my first VM world, and I've been going to them ever since.
nice.
So
Nice.
haven't missed one,
Nice.
and going this year.
Good, excellent. Yeah, yep. It's we're still going, right? And it's good. There's a lot of great content. So let's talk about the content at Explore this year. So this year we did reach out to VMUG members, and I don't know if it was VMUG, Brad Tompkins, or whoever submitted you guys, or maybe it was Corey Romero that actually recruited some of you guys as V experts as well. I'm not sure how all the people got selected, but you're on one of the content committees now that are reviewing content. So can you tell us a little bit about what does that entail and what's been your experience so far?
Sure. So we started probably about 3 weeks to a month ago with our kickoff call. There's four VMUG members on the committee, and then there's a Broadcom employee associated with each one of us, and we each got a track to review the content. Four tracks this year, and it's really interesting, right? I mean, getting to see all the submissions, getting to, I think when me and you were chatting, Eric, before we started, the back end of it, how everything works, the amount of sessions that are available when you go there to the attendee is, in my opinion, great. And even last year, smaller than usual, but I still thought the content was there, right? If you wanted it, it was available to take in, and seeing what is, I don't want to say missed, but what doesn't get through is still
doesn't make a cut. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that you could have 2 more days, 3 more days of Explore with the great content that's submitted. There's definitely not a shortage. And I haven't seen it before this year, but I know this year, just looking at what I've seen, there's going to be a lot of great content. And, of course, it's a lot of VCF, which is good, I think, right? I mean, it's a journey a lot of people are going on, myself, and maybe not a major announcement. Like we talked about, we had 9 this year. What are we going to talk about? Well, you're going to have more 9 content this year, more in-depth, more knowledge, right? And I think that's what I'm seeing partly in doing the content review is the amount of 9 and the I guess the quality, not just the quantity, but the quality of the sessions and the knowledge that's out there now, because 9 has been there for so long now.
Do you guys see yourself looking through the content and trying to decide what kind of customer content there is versus what kind of internal Broadcom content there is? I know on that community side of the house, we're doing that. And we first looked at, we had 100X number of sessions, submissions, and then we tried to tag them. How many were customer? How many were people that were doing things? And then those are the ones we evaluated first, and we tried to select decent ones that were from that. Are you guys looking at it from that? And do you have to balance the Broadcom submission to the customer submission space?
So we don't have to necessarily balance it. I know when I reviewed them, I did. So I took the names and the employer out first and just looked at the content. Like, what's the title? Right. And then I marked them. Okay, I like these ones. Then I added the names back. Then I added the, Broadcom or customer. I do like, being a VMUG member or a leader for 12 plus years and a member for longer than that. I love the community sessions. I think they're great. You got to hear from Broadcom too, right? The people that do the work. They're the ones that know it. But hearing the community, hearing somebody that did something that you want to do, I think is, just as valuable. So you definitely have to have a good mix. So I try not to, lean one way or the other. A good balance is great with those.
Nice. All right. So the other thing that I would say is that I'm surprised there's 4 of you and you each get a track. So you're not all 4 looking at all the content together in the track. You basically an individual's going through all the submissions for a track and kind of culling them down. Are you guys going to come back together and then self-review so that, you know, there's like some more than one set of eyeballs on a set of track submissions?
So while we're assigned a track, we have access to all the tracks.
Oh, I see.
And I can tell you that I forget the name the track. So I got like the network security one. I think Cloud Foundation, I think is one of them that has about 500 submissions.
Yeah.
All the other ones are around 100. So it takes me a lot less time to review mine than it does the person with it. So with Cloud Foundation, right? So I've taken time to look at theirs as well, and he's reached out to us and said, "Hey, I got a lot. Anybody else? If you got, you know, take a look." So while we're assigned a track, that doesn't mean we don't talk about the other ones as well.
Yeah, and you just can't imagine. I know I've done this. How long it actually takes to read each one and pay attention to the whole, pop it up, the whole description, read through the description, and then, you know, some of this stuff we're not exactly, you know, experts at, right? And so you have to spend time. We've actually spent time chat GPTing, you know, some of the descriptions in the sessions because there's like some terminology. I'm like, I don't even know what that is, let alone how to evaluate it. But then, you know, you learn, and pretty soon we all go, oh, all right, that's what that is. But it's, you know, you can spend 20 minutes on one submission just trying to figure out what it is, and let alone stack rank it with all the other things. So it goes slow.
Well, that just highlights too, like we've
does.
talked about submitting things, the approaches to submitting, having good titles and things like that. And so, but still, that's just a lot of time, man. You know. Sorry, Eric, you were going to say something.
Yeah, and then no, that's okay. But I was going to say that too. And then you read one, and then five submissions later, you read another one. It's like, wow, that sounds really familiar. So now I got 2 that are similar. You maybe don't want to say yes to both, but how do you choose between them? I mean, it's difficult.
Almost
right?
too bad you can't tell them to. You can't say, "Hey, you two should talk to each other." You know, like So.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
but
I've seen that.
I think overall the content is great this year. There's going to be a lot of good sessions.
The other thing that I noticed doing it is when I would review things without the person's name, which I did as well, right? Because you want to be kind of judge, you know, be fair, right? And not judge based on a name you recognize, right? And that gives Bob an edge because I just don't automatically remove him from for community talks.
Yeah, that's why I buy you beer at conferences and things.
Right, exactly. But then when I go through and I looked at who I've selected, every once in a while there'll be somebody that I actually, a speaker that I selected 5 times because they're really good at submitting and writing a wonderful description of what they're going to talk about. And then I realized I can't have this person with 5 sessions, right? Yeah. Like, so I have to go back then and, okay, sorry, you know, I got to choose one from that person or maybe 2 at most.
And at least internally there, we can do some horse trading. Like I submitted 8 sessions this year, you know, and I sure hope I don't get 8 sessions because, like, my goodness. But, you know, but I've got my coworkers, I submitted them on behalf of a team, and we'll just rotate people in and out. So
that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, that's nice to know.
Yeah, that's harder to do. You can't really do that with external people, but yeah, if you're the internal folks, you know, we can do that sort of thing. Right. But you know, having other people show up though, external, really hearing what people are using the products for and how they're using the products is always super interesting. So yeah,
have you seen 1 or 2 that you looked at and you said, well, I'm not sure that this is that relevant, but I'd never heard of this topic before, and I'm just curious myself what he's going to talk about. So maybe I'll, you know, select him or them because it's something that piques your curiosity. I was just wondering if you ran into that. I know I do.
Yeah, I definitely. And that it's funny you said that because there's one that sticks out, and so the Broadcom folk that assigned the track with us, I was reading one, and I was reading it in the spreadsheet I downloaded, right? And I thought exactly what you just said, that I'm not sure about this, but I want to hear more. I go back to the website where it's all listed, and that person from Broadcom put a note basically saying the exact same thing. I'm not sure how, not the exact words, but I'm not sure how relevant this is, but if it is, this is going to be great. And I thought the same thing. So we're definitely picking that one, hopefully, but yes, definitely the description, the synopsis of it, it's like, wow, I'm not sure, but I really want to hear this story.
Right. And there's some of these topics where I've been worked now, for my career's now hitting 42 years since the IBM PC at Boca Raton when I first started out, and it's like, I've known every possible topic that's out there mostly. Right. And every once in a while you run into one where you're like, I don't even know what this is talking about. I got to go figure this out. And then I'm like, it's so unique that there's got to be a lot of other people that would find this interesting only because no one's ever talked about it before. Right. So I'm like, and I think that's a reality of picking sessions. There's a couple of them where you're like, well, since I've never even heard of this, it would probably be useful just to hear what the heck the topic is. Right. We in the data center, right. You're not picking things way out there, but yeah, fun times. All right, Bob, anything else we want to hit Eric with before we talk about disaster recovery and business continuity at his bank?
No, I think Eric, thank you for doing that. It's really helpful to have non-Broadcom people looking at this stuff, and the as I will phrase things sometimes, the helping us help you sort of thing. Thank you. The community does so much to help in that regard, and it is a time commitment, as we've pointed out. So yeah, no, that's really cool. But and just there are a couple of tips here too, like out of all of this when you're submitting stuff. So what did we have? Clear titles, get to the point, and show relevance. Actually, the show relevance to the conference and to the track. Sounds like it all things that would help for some of these submissions. So I think we can just put those in our back pocket as ideas for the next time.
My takeaway, I got one piece of advice for people. A longer description is better, right? A longer content description is better. You wouldn't believe how many the title sounds interesting, and I go, oh, that might be interesting. I click on the description and it's just like 7 words longer than the title. And you're like, yeah, if you couldn't put at least a little bit of work in your description, like a paragraph or two, then how's your session going to be? Is that what you're going to do for your session as well? Like you're just,
we
typing
can't guess
some random thing up. Right. And so there were good ones that we just went, no, there's not enough here. Right. So that's my 2 cents.
Cool.
Yeah. You're selling yourself, and that's what you're selling yourself on. Right. So it's
right. Yep. Descriptions are good. All right. With that, Eric, business continuity. So you're in a bank, right? And I got to imagine that banks don't mess around with business continuity issues, right? Because you have to be open. And when you're talking about other people's money, people get very sensitive about this kind of stuff, right? Outages are not good. The Bay Area had a outage for the transit system yesterday, complete outage. Buses, trains, the metro, everything shut down for the whole day. And it's kind of like, yeah, I can imagine that transit is not a good thing to shut down, and banks are not a good thing to shut down, right? So how are you guys, what were your big, issues, and how did you approach it?
So I guess it really started, we always had, since I've been there, we've always had some type of disaster recovery plan, right? But back when we were, and this goes for anybody, right? Before you were virtual and you were physical, how did you do a DR plan, right? You had to have physical boxes in both locations. And you got a web server here, you got to have one here. You got SQL here, you got to have one there. You got to find a way to replicate that data. Obviously, virtualization has made that job a lot easier, a lot more reliable. No pitch here, just what we use. We use Veeam, and I'm sure all the other backup products work. Otherwise they wouldn't, backup and replication products. Otherwise they wouldn't be there. we had a core conversion back in 2015 and we needed a solution. I had been messing with Veeam at the time and we had a very short window. So that's how it worked out. And yeah, that's what we got. And we use it today for our backup and replication. We use it for all of our DR tests, and it works for us. You talk to some people who say, oh, this does this better, or that does that better. And I'm, I won't argue that, but there's great products out there. I've looked at multiple other ones, but yeah, so say 2015, and that was the height of our, virtualization, when we were really full steam ahead to going all virtual. And now all of our virtual servers are in Veeam. We do tests throughout the year, annual DR tests with all of our applications. And we used to have a production and DR location, which now we refer to as primary and secondary, because we have had a couple events where we lost power. And I like to emphasize when I say that is we lost only power. We did not lose data. And I contribute that to having a good plan, a good replication plan in place. I kind of parlayed my experiences into speaking opportunities with VMUG. So I'm here in Toronto. I'm presenting at the Toronto UserCon tomorrow, and I'm on business continuity and disaster recovery. So unfortunately, kind of became a passion. I got really into liking speaking about it and talking about my experience and not just what we did, but that every time you have an issue, the most important thing is you learn something from that, right? If you get one thing that you learn from that to improve the next time, then it was worth it. And every time, and I say every, it's not that we had many, I count them on less than one hand, but even the CrowdStrike, I like to go back to that last year, 2024 on July 19th. I did not realize how big CrowdStrike was. And until that happened, that wasn't my fault. We didn't do anything. Nobody did anything. They did, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you had to deal with it, right? I didn't cause it. But it's on me now to fix. So and that's not necessarily an outage, right? It's not an internet outage. It's not a power outage or a DDoS or anything like that, but it's an event that you have to fix. And our other DR tests and plans and getting people deployed and together to do things, if anything, it was a lot more under control, a lot more organized, and a lot of people were less stressed, I guess. And it's only because we've been through it and we knew, we could do this.
Practice helps. The people and to your point, people don't talk about it because they're embarrassed about it, or they don't want to, they don't want to talk about failures because people might judge you, or their marketing department say no, that sort of thing. But it's very useful to talk about these things. People can learn from each other, to your point, there's common things for outages. Stuff happens, right? Like what you're talking about. Who could have predicted that? And how many organizations had that as a risk? And had thought about it as a risk, and probably not as many as should be thinking about that. And that's how now it's on lists. But yeah, you always learn something. I used to carry during outages. I used to carry a notebook around and just write notes down and go through it afterwards just to figure out, how do we do this? How do we have an outage better next time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the lessons learned coming out of them, and, two of my main things that I talk about are have a plan, right? In my presentation, have a plan. Mm-hmm. Don't just have a plan, test your plan.
Yeah.
You can have one, but if you don't know it works, because even when we did have an outage, when we did have an event, we had a plan, but there were certain things we didn't test, the unknowns, right? Well, they're in the plan now. So again, just learn one thing about your experience, and you'll be better next time. Yep.
And I would add to that too, after the outage, have a postmortem, what, talk about what didn't go well, talk about what did go well, so you don't change the things that work, that sort of thing. And yeah, so your plan when you're talking about this stuff, do you talk about communications as well, like during outages and things? How what does an outage look like, I guess, in your plan? What is an outage?
How quickly do you spin up a bridge? Do you need a bridge with teams on it? Like how do you orchestrate that whole
What happens
thing?
if the bridge is down? That was something that bit us once.
So yes to all those. Yes, we have a communication plan.
Cool.
Yes, we have a time where we consider the bridge. I guess it depends on the event, right? If we're out of power, if we're down right now, then yeah, immediately, right? That's up. That's running. But sometimes it's a wait and see. You get teams ready. Hey, here's the situation we're in. Be prepared just in case.
Yep.
And the internet line goes down. When do we decide to fail over what? And obviously our web server, our external file transfer servers, they're almost immediate. We sit there and wait, we assess, with the internet line, with the vendor, what's the status, what's the ETA? Okay, let's start. We need to get this stuff up. That's almost, that's a pretty short window on when we decide that. The other stuff, and it's as long as it can communicate between data centers, then it's not as important, right? But we're still prepared, we're still ready. Like what's have your team on standby. So all of those are involved. Yeah. CrowdStrike, we found out about it at 2:30 a.m. when our NOC reported that their PC rebooted and it was now at a blue screen or whatever they came up to.
Boot failed.
So we were able to round up my entire team in less than a half hour, which kudos to them for having their phones on. But
night owls, yeah.
Yeah. But we got about 130 branch offices. We had contacted the majority of the branch managers before the branch was supposed to open. And we had typically our level 1 techs or our on-site techs, but there's only about 10 of those. It's not enough to cover, a lot of branches. So my team, other teams were going out, and we had those branch managers get into the branches early, assess the situation. Is your branch server down? How many PCs are down? So for the CrowdStrike, we closed no doors that day.
Very cool.
Every branch opened on time and stayed open till the end of the day.
Holy buckets.
Yeah. Part of that was the communication, right? We have a great communication plan to get that out there. And so yes, we do have that. And a lot of it is just depending on the event and the severity of it is when we take action. But we're ready to pull the trigger, at a moment's notice.
Well, you have to be, because if you could plan these things, they would be planned outages, right?
Right.
So, and you would have figured them out already. But yeah, you're just, I'm having flashbacks sitting here thinking about this stuff. Communication plans, knowing who to call, having their phone numbers even, that's, we discovered once that everyone's phone numbers, we had them all, but they were in our CMDB and the CMDB was down, and then we ended up debating how we would deal with that. Oh, we could export it to a laptop. Somebody eventually just printed it and stuck it to the data center door with a magnet, a big speaker magnet or something like that. Problem solved,
Yep.
But yeah, and that stuff that cuts hours off of the recovery time too. And when you can get right into it, when you can start assessing things, you've got that fog of war sort of thing right at the beginning. You don't really know what's going on sometimes, and starting to figure that out is really important.
Eric, do you guys force yourselves to do periodic testing on a cadence? Like, we're going to do it every 6 months. We're going to do stuff, because for me, it feels like there's a psychological barrier where I don't want to break things, because I got platforms and we're just barely keeping everything up and running as it is, right? So unless I actually schedule it, it's kind of like we just kick the can down. It's so easy to kick the can down the road, because doing this stuff, you risk breaking stuff when you do it. right? So it's kind of like,
but
if
would
you
you
don't
rather
force
have it
yourself,
broken on your terms or broken on it in the middle of the night? You know, that's the, you
the
know,
psychological response to that is maybe it just won't break.
well, that would be ideal, you know, but you
Right.
do learn some things like that during outages too, you know. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, therefore, if you don't have the forced schedule, you know,
Well,
those things
Eric
that
should.
maybe it won't break, you know, yeah.
So do you have a cadence, Eric? Do you have yeah? What is it? I'm curious because there's a balance there. You wait too long, and it's too much opportunity for drift. You do it too often, and you get into what Eric's talking about.
So we don't do a full every server or every application DR test at one time. We do individual ones throughout the year.
Okay.
So we've already done
That's a
a
good
handful
idea.
this year, right? So we do, so we do it in smaller pieces. Now we do a larger core one in the fall, where we do. It's a bigger one. It's a lot more involved, right? That's our big DR test. But applications that aren't associated with that test are done throughout the year and other times. So we're constantly doing some type of DR test. So the whole process, maybe not with that application, but just the process in general, stays fresh in everybody's mind, right? Because every month or every 3 weeks, you're doing a different DR test.
Cool. Yeah, and that's the thing. If you are lucky enough to not have an outage, in fact, a lot of organizations that have protected data center, protected power in their data center, and they never go down. When they do, it's just catastrophic because they have no idea what to do. You know, like you've hit on something very important here. Practice makes it a lot easier. So that's cool.
And I want to jump back. You had mentioned post-mortem and lessons learned. I think in our first big one in 2022, we had a big lessons learned. Right, it happened at 8:30 a.m. on a Friday. That sucks.
Yeah,
we had a power.
There's no time to do anything. You're going to be open. You know, like it's just
right. But the good thing was it happened before we opened, so we weren't really doing any processing yet because our branches hadn't opened. So it was really a good timing for us. Now, our DBA brought up if it would have happened at 4:30 p.m. and we failed over, we would have, and I got to use the words correctly here, we would have been without 8 hours worth of data for a period of time. Not lost because it was still somewhere, just powered off, right? So it came down to replication timing. So out of that, okay, that was my major lesson learned. Fix, what do we do? Well, that's when we went from just using Veeam replication to using Veeam CDP. So their continuous data protection, it gave us, a lot more frequent recover points. But it doesn't matter what application you use, right? The point is you identify an issue and you make it better for the next time.
Yeah, and Veeam, I was a Veeam customer back when I was in your shoes, and before Site Recovery Manager. Well, actually, before all the new stuff, the live recovery and all that stuff, and it's continuous data protection. A lot of those are just it's still asynchronous, but it's just a lot smaller. Because we talk about RPO and RTO, recovery time objective, how long can you be down, and RPO, how much data can you lose? You don't want to lose any data or as little as possible, and so that's, I was going to ask about RPO there, so I'm glad you brought it up because, that would be, banks have lots of different audit trails, so you can reconstruct it, but that's a pain too, you don't want to have to do that.
And I think another point outside of IT, really, when it comes to any DR test and any DR plan and business continuity, all that, is the people outside of IT, the application owners, the business analysts. Those people need to understand what you're doing, because when you do a DR test, they jump in after it's already failed over. Okay, let's do our testing. They don't know what's involved. They don't know the process. Having them, educating them so they know, okay, IT or operations or whoever has to do this work before my application's up. They're used to just getting in because we start before, we start at 6 p.m. They join the call.
They don't see the whole dependency tree that comes before it. So well, and application owners can participate in the design. There's things that decisions that they will make that can really help or hurt you. You know, even just having an application start on its own at boot when the VM comes up and it just starts doing what it's supposed to do, that's huge. You know, but you need the app people to help you with that. You know, and so yeah, educating other parts of your organization is, you know, one of those people and process things that you think you get into IT because you want to play with computers, and then you realize it's all people, you know, and it's like crap, you know. But the yeah, that's really important, you know, have everyone on your same team, and then exposure to the processes. That's
yeah, and everybody's application is a tier 1 application, right?
Oh yeah, of course, you know, the most important thing is my thing, right? You know.
Yeah, it just strikes me when you said branch managers and how you wrap in, you know, disaster recovery and business continuity when you have branches and you have a diverse set of people, and there's processes. If it goes down at 11 in the morning when tellers are sitting and all of a sudden you're getting green cursors that don't do anything, how does that the human process to that, Bob, as you say? Yeah, we're in IT, but it turns out the IT,
all
it's
people
users.
and process, man.
Right. It is interesting.
I
I know we've been going for 46 minutes now, and we do have some time limits. So, Eric, I want to shift gears a little bit and just talk a little bit about the UserCon in Toronto, if you don't mind. So you're up in Toronto now, and you're a leader. So I assume they recruited you to do a talk.
They are on the metric system after all, leaders. So.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Terrible.
Be a punny. Yep. Gotta go there.
I'll mute myself.
So how did you get recruited? You're up in Toronto. That's obviously not where you live. How did you get recruited to do a session up there?
So I submitted my call for papers through VMUG beginning of the year.
So,
this is actually, go ahead.
So first off, VMUG does call for papers. So everybody knows about Explore call for papers, but you can go to vmug.com and look for call for papers, and you obviously can submit your own paper then. And you went through that process. Did you do it at the beginning of the year, or when did you end up doing that? And is it for just Toronto, or is that for the whole year?
It's for the whole year. So you do it at the beginning of the year, beginning of the UserCon year, right? You do it for the first half. And I believe they have a call for papers for the second half as well. And when you submit it, you're submitting it for all UserCons. Now, I believe you can select which ones you can attend, but they'll reach out and say, hey, are you available? And if not, you say, unfortunately, you know, I'm not, but no, they'll keep you in mind for other ones. But at all UserCons, there's community sessions, right? Which is what mine is. Mine's a community session. And yeah, this is about my 20,
okay, so
20 plus
good
UserCon last 2+ years.
Nice.
Okay, got that. Next question: did they pay for your travel? Did they fund that, or do you cover that yourself?
No, if you're a speaker, they fund your travel.
Cool.
Nice. All right, cool. And are you invited? Okay, next question: are you invited to the leadership dinner the night before? Do they do that kind of thing? I don't know if that's the case. I know Brad Tompkin texted me, hey, I'm landing in Toronto today. Are you going to be here? Come on. And I know I'm not there. But so do they get you guys together pre-show the night before?
So the dinner comes out of the local group's discretionary funds. So if they choose to have one, yes, the community speakers get to attend.
Got it. Are they having one? And if you tell Brad he's too slow, work faster, blah blah blah. Tell him Eric said that he's lame. Right? Give him a hard time.
Leave Brad alone.
I don't think we're having one here this year.
All right. Well, okay. Well, if you see Brad, tell him you were on the podcast yesterday and Eric was making fun of him. Yeah, exactly.
He just liked something of mine on Twitter, or X or whatever we're calling it these days.
He's constantly liking things.
He's probably watching us. So
yeah,
he's in the air right now. I think he lands at 5.
Oh, that's
okay. There you go. All right. So that answered my three questions. And then UserCon is all day. Is it at the conference center, or is it going to be a Top Golf event? I know they have 2 different versions of them.
Yeah. So the Top Golf events are VMUG, they're UserCon experiences, which I've been to those as well. This is a full UserCon. This is at a hotel. So this is the full all day event. Personally, I like them both. I'm glad they did the experience to not get rid of a UserCon in the location, still allow a city to have it at a smaller scale. I've been to them. I think they're great. So
not too late. Free conference. It's free for users in the area. So if you're near Toronto, you can drive up, right, and spend the day downtown Toronto. I remember I did it. I went to Toronto one like 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe the year before COVID happened, or so. Maybe that's 5 years ago now. But nice downtown city. Yeah,
right in downtown.
I think it was May, and it snowed one afternoon. Like I was like, "What's going on?" Right? Like,
such as Canada,
Right.
Yeah, it's cloudy. It's overcast. It's only in the 50s.
Right. Yep. A little bit of sleet. Now, it didn't stick or anything, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it's May, and I've come to Toronto to get pelted by a little bit of sleet, right? Which is fine. It was a good group of people. I felt like it was a lot of senior administrators. Like they must have just a lot of senior guys running data centers up in Toronto. Maybe it's because Toronto's a big city like New York, because you forget it's a big city for Canada, right? They're one of their big three. So yeah.
No, that should be fun.
That
I really, and Eric, you talking about the experiences, I really still like just the idea of just getting people together, like even the V beers and stuff like that. I don't know, those have kind of fizzled out a little bit. I'm sure there's still people doing them or whatever, but just to get together with people. And again, what you were saying earlier about just talking about experiences with DR and outages and things, like just have an informal way to do that, and ask questions of other folks and whatever, like community is so important. And so, yeah, being able to preserve those at a Top Golf or whatever is nice.
Yeah, cool. I like that. And then do you know who's doing the keynote tomorrow? Have you seen what they're who's kicking it off?
I believe it's Peter Neer.
All right. Yep. He's a popular one. Right. I forget what he talks about, but I know I've heard the name. I know he's
Peter Neer, Field CTO Broadcom. So
there you go.
Field CTOs talk about everything. So
right. Yeah, I can talk about everything. I'm still on the excitement of going to VMUG Connect, right, and just getting to hear all the great sessions that were there.
Yeah, that was good.
It's a lot of fun, right?
I enjoyed that. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
There was so much stuff going on. I didn't get to talk to nearly as many people as I actually wanted to, and so yeah, we definitely need to do that again.
I need to get my game up when it comes to that, because I tend to collect with the people I know and I'm friendly with, and I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah, and I sit around and I chat, and I find Bob, and I talk to Bob and Corey, and I talk to Gene Williams, the people that I'm there, and then I know like maybe 4 or 5 community people that I talk with because I recognize them. Oh, hey, I haven't seen you around. But I felt like VMUG should do like some mixer before the keynote, right, where everybody gets a bingo card and you got to find people's names on it. And if you get bingo, you have to, hey, who are you, and blah blah blah, and fill out. So you just get to know more people, because it's actually, I'm an introvert, right? I like looking at my sneakers more than I don't. Like I don't mind online stuff, but when it comes to being in a room with people go, oh, Eric, you're such an extrovert. I'm like, yeah, I'm like a crossbreed. I'll also just look for my friends and talk to them, right? And unless you give me something, if you make me do that disaster recovery process, then I'll do it. If you make me fill out a bingo card and say, hey, I'm Eric, who are you? Where do you fit? What are you?
So basically, you want like IT speed dating is what.
Yeah, that's right. That's exact. That's a great
Nothing
term
weird about
for
that or anything.
I'm going to talk to Brad. We should have
get people out of their shells
dating.
a little bit. Like, hey, who are you?
Yep. Get to know more people, because then once you introduce them and you remember them, next time you see them, you get to hear their stories. There's a guy from Starbucks, I forget his name, but every time I see him, I'm like, oh, what are you guys doing? Right? Just learning, right? But if you don't know them, then you don't even know who they work for or what they do. And almost everybody has cool stories, right? That they're working on. Kind of fun.
Well, I'm glad, Eric, you were able to share your cool stories, the DR and all that stuff. Like I said, not so many people talk about that stuff because they consider it a failure or whatever. But helping everyone and moving around and talking about it and that's really cool.
And thanks for registering your session and showing up to Toronto in
I
a
was gonna
hotel. You know, he's here. He's in a hotel right now talking to us and coming on the podcast.
Yeah, I was
and
wondering
talking
what was
about
going
we're
on. That sure looks like a hotel room. So
Yep.
Yeah.
He's living the dream. Living the dream. Are you doing any others, or is just the one you did a session to explore? So any others?
I hope so. Not as of yet, but I did.
Yeah.
I did Orlando this year. I went to Philly just as a
Right.
attendee, not speaking, just because it's
Right.
only a 4-hour drive, and I love VMUG, so I drove out there for it.
Nice.
that was
Nice. Well, good job.
are you sticking
All right,
around?
well-
Are you sticking around in Toronto for an extra day or anything, or are you going right back?
No, I'm leaving tomorrow night.
Cool.
So last thing, you're from Pittsburgh. We do live stream on V Barbecue, youtube.com/V Barbecue. You can see us there. We're actually on TalkShoe. We're on iTunes. You can follow the VMware Community Podcast, VMware Roundtable Community Podcast, I think is the title. Go give us a follow. Eric, barbecue in Pittsburgh. Do you do any barbecue in the summer? So either tell us what barbecue you do make, or do you go purchase barbecue from a favorite barbecue place in Indianapolis,
No,
Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Indiana, Pennsylvania. What's your barbecue story?
Well, so I don't know if you guys ever heard, there used to be a group, and they're still kind of around in Pittsburgh, called V Brisket.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's old.
Is that where that started? Yeah. Is that where that
That's
started?
where that started. Pittsburgh.
Holy
All right.
buckets.
Last June, we did a V Brisket VMUG event in Pittsburgh, so we're planning another one for this year.
Oh, excellent.
That's great. That's great. My hat's off to anybody that can make a good brisket, because my brisket, I'm going to try another one this summer. I'm going to find a smaller, I'm not going to get the 23-pound brisket from Costco and then turn it into a lump of coal. Yeah. I just turned it into a big giant piece of coal by the time I was done. Dry, lumpy thing. It had a bark on it, but the bark was like halfway through the meat by the time I was done with it. So yeah, gotta hats off to those guys that put one out, and it is good because it feeds a good group, right?
Yes.
Nice. V Brisket. I hadn't heard that in a while. That's great.
Yeah, that's old. That's old school stuff here.
Yeah, that's
That's
to know.
very old.
Well, you hit that one out of the park. I gotta say, I was expecting you just to talk about some barbecue place or something easy, but bringing up V Brisket and then that they're going to have one, that's awesome. We should get that going.
My experience with Pittsburgh, the only time really I've been in Pittsburgh was right before the Picklesburg thing or whatever. Like they have some pickle festival or whatever, and so everything was out and it was very pickle centric. And I thought that was quite interesting, but I did not have any barbecue while I was there.
Yeah, my son went to Carnegie Mellon, which is right there, right at Pittsburgh, right across the street from Pitt. So there's Pitt campus and there's Carnegie Mellon campus right next to each other, and lots of stuff to do right in there. Good places to eat.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is not known for its barbecue, so not saying there's not good barbecue points. Get a pierogi or something. Don't.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say we didn't get any barbecue.
They've got other local fare, So
yeah,
no, that's cool.
Yeah. Good times.
Excellent.
Eric Kubla, thanks a lot for coming and spending a lunchtime with us and talking about what you're doing. I appreciate it. You can read Eric's blog at Eric Kubla KUBLA.blogspot.com. And Eric, are you on Twitter? Can people follow you?
He is. Yes, I just had him here somewhere.
At Eric Kubla, all one word.
All one word. ERICKUBLA at Eric Kubla. There he is.
There it is.
All right. Give him a follow and tell him hi and tell him you listen to him on the podcast. And Eric, don't forget to say hi to Brad if you see him.
I will do that in about an hour and a half.
Okay.
Nice.
Awesome. All right. Thanks a lot. And we'll be back again next week.
Having me.
Yeah. Anytime, man.